So in this section, we will be talking about the crucial genetic terminology. We will explain the next concepts, the key concepts about DNA, genes, and chromosomes. I know this topic can be quite complex, but we will try to use simple language, and as a result of this section, you will understand the foundations of genetics.
So, Sophia, have you ever wondered what makes us who we are? What makes us unique from everyone around us, and what really makes us us?
Yeah, I have, because it's such a fascinating process, like how our traits and characteristics are determined. And it absolutely has something to do with DNA. And that's why I suggest we will discuss more about this teeny tiny double helix structure that
Ah,
sits in a chromosome.
yeah, you're right on the mark. So DNA, which is short for deoxyribonucleic acid, it holds the key to our genetic information. It is basically like an instruction manual for our development and functioning, our makes us who we are. So it is, I always think of it, like, use the analogy of a recipe manual or a recipe book. It has a recipe book of, okay, Marine's going to have this colored hair, this colored eye, this colored sort of skin, and this is how tall she's going to be. So that is the recipe manual, and all of that information is held within our DNA.
Oh, I like this analogy about the book recipe book. It's incredible. Every cell in our body has this recipe book, and every cell has to open it on the right page and to use the genetic information what it needs. Because depending on where our cells are, whether it's in our brain or in our skin, they need different code from the DNA. But yeah, all of that is really fascinating. But let's just zoom into DNA and discuss what it is made of. So DNA is basically consists of two intertwined strands, and it resembles a twisted ladder. Or if we want to use a more scientific language, it's called a double helix. And hopefully you will see the image of double helix of the DNA on your screen. So each strand has a backbone. It's made of sugar and phosphate groups. Zooming in, going a bit into chemistry. So with the rungs or the steps on the ladder, so these steps are made of four chemical bases, just four bases in the DNA. So they are adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. Or you can see just letters A, C, G, T. And these four bases, they contribute to our genetic information, to our blueprint, to our individual genetic code.
This what you have just so simply explained is actually a very complex concept. It took me like over a year in my bachelor's to grasp genetics, but that is exactly it. So these four alphabets, as I say, A, C, G, T, these are the actual sort of building blocks of the recipe manual. So the sequence of these bases or base alphabets along the DNA strand holds the biological information. So how, again, sorry, going back to the analogy of a recipe book, but how we have a recipe book saying get eggs or make a cake. Similarly, these are our alphabets, A, C, G, T, and they come together in a genetic language. They would say make dystrophin, make blue eyes, and that is what the language in genetics is. And it is similar to, like I said, how the letters in the alphabet form words and sentences, and the order of these letters determines the instructions for building and maintaining us, such as, like I said before, the production of different structural proteins, or different parts of our body. It is actually just these four alphabets that actually say what should be made in our body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's absolutely remarkable. And there's one very, I think, peculiar and interesting fact that these letters, four letters, they pair up in a very, very specific way. So they are very picky about who they're gonna hold hands with. Because if we look at the DNA, there are two base pairs, two letters, and they say like, oh, I'm gonna hold adenine hand, for example, adenine hand. So adenine always bonds with thymine. And cytosine always bonds with guanine, or always holds guanine's hand. So they basically are like puzzle pieces that fit perfectly together to create the base pairs of our DNA.
I like your analogy of puzzles, but I have another analogy of magnets. So, we said DNA is a double helix. It's like a ladder. It's an intertwined ladder, right? Sitting inside these chromosomes all packed with all our genetic information. But, these two strands, let's say here, they need to be stuck together by these bases or these alphabets. So A will always be stuck to T and C will always be stuck to G. And that's how they form that double helix. And this is how these building blocks or the alphabets of the genetic material come together and make a double helix. And that's how they have that genetic information in front of inside of them. And I it's amazing how it all fits together so precisely. I mean, kudos to the scientists who have, years ago discovered all of this. But again, it brings me back to my point of why DNA is so important. I mean, we understand that DNA carries our hereditary material. It's present in almost every cell of our body. It contains the instructions necessary for transmission or sort of passing on of inherited traits from one generation to the next. So things are conserved. And it is essentially, in a nutshell, the blueprint of life. Makes us who we are.
Yeah, I like all these analogies, and it just says that science doesn't have to be very complicated. It can be explained in a simple way with different references, with different analogies. But now I would like to talk a bit more about the science behind DNA, and I know that it can replicate itself. So do you know how it works?
Yeah, so I mean, we are ever changing, evolving, growing. Old cells are dying, new ones are being made. We're never in a constant state of nothing. I mean, we're always changing. So DNA adapts and changes with us, and it has this incredible ability to make copies of itself. So each strand of the double helix, one or two strands, serves as a template. So one of them will serve as a sort of a starting point or a template, we say, for creating an exact duplicate of the sequences it holds or the alphabet it holds. So if you've got A, C, for example, so it has the ability on the opposite hand make T, G. So it has the ability to make more of itself, is what I'm trying to say. And the replication process is crucial when cells divide, because each new cell creates an accurate copy of the DNA present in the original cell. So cells are always dividing, we're growing, we're changing, we're repairing. You get you hurt yourself, you need new cells to repair. So that DNA has the ability to replicate and make a copy of itself to keep that process going.
Yeah, nature is just remarkable, just to sum up what you said. So it basically a built-in mechanism for self-preservation. DNA wants to replicate, it wants to have more copies of itself, to the mechanism of reproduction. And it's incredible to think that something so vital exists within each and every one of us.
Absolutely. And indeed, like, our DNA forms the foundation of our species. It is the combination of shared traits and unique characteristics that make us so beautifully diverse as human beings. We're all different.
Yeah, I just couldn't agree more. And when I learn more about DNA, about all the unique features, it just makes me appreciate my life more, everything, but all the unique features that we have. That is just incredible. The nature is incredible. And DNA, the mechanism, and I'm so happy that science has figured out how it looks like, how it works, so we can appreciate it all together.
Here at Action Duchenne, we are committed to inform, but also support you through your Duchenne journey. If you'd like to talk about anything raised in this video, please feel free to contact us on 07535 498 506. Or alternatively, email us at info@actionduchenne.org. Thank you.